Welcome to Write Books That Sell Now, the podcast helping you write, publish, and market your book faster, better, and smarter. Here are your hosts, working hard and having fun doing it, Candace L. Davis, Anita Henderson, and Carol Dunlop.
All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Write Books That Sell Now, the podcast that gives you real insight into the real world of being a successful published author. I'm Carol Dunlop, and this is Anita Henderson and Candace L. Davis, and we are the, I don't want to say three musketeers, but we're the three people who put Write Books That Sell Now together, and we're doing this thing. And so coming up on this episode, we'll discuss little-known facts, strategies, and insights of the self-publishing process with our guest, Kimberly Martin of Jera Publishing. These are the secrets some online publishing services do not reveal, and it's essential information that can save you a ton of time and money as you publish a book. But before we get to that, Anita, what's on your mind today?
Oh, what's on my mind today? Well, Candace knows.
I do.
And you know, too, I had a speaking engagement recently and had the opportunity to share some information on, you know what, book publishing.
Oh, no, not book publishing.
I know, right? I'm handing that. And it was really an honor because the National Speakers Association Georgia chapter asked me to speak to one of their interest groups. And you know how you do all your preparation, you get all this information going, and you got your PowerPoint done. I did my rehearsal. I was ready to go. And I got there, set up my laptop, had it on their screen.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Well, the first slide was beautiful. And then as I started clicking through, I got a couple of clicks in, and then you know, crickets.
No.
Nothing.
No.
And
Well, she still had text on the
I had
screen.
text on the screen. Then once the clicking finally got back going, none of my images were there. So it was just like this plain white screen with my words. Okay, boring, wah, wah. So what do you do when that happens?
Yeah,
what do you do?
Did you stop? Did you stop and say, somebody
keep
help
it
me?
moving, keep it moving,
Well,
keep it moving.
her
My husband
husband
happened to be
did
there.
jump in and make an attempt at the tech, but it was not even.
It wasn't. He was so, okay, let me just put a caveat in there. Just to think that my husband was an IT guy is kind of scary. Love you, sweetie, but, you know, I know more about tech than he does sometimes, so how frightening is that? He did a great job doing a quick fix. But you know what? When stuff like that happens, you just got to keep moving.
Right.
Keep moving, keep rolling.
Hashtag keep it moving.
Hashtag
And let me
keep it
just tell you from the audience perspective, Anita was so cool and calm. It was almost like nothing had happened. And she talked about it, whatever. She was like, oh my goodness, this slide would be so good because it had such a wonderful image. I wish y'all had seen it. But her information was so good. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. When by the time she finished speaking and went into Q&A, first of all, Anita is the stopwatch queen, right? So if it's going to be done at 11:30, you better get your question in because Anita's going to be done at 11:30. So at 11:30, she wrapped up the questions. But did people keep her there for another hour?
Wow.
Yes,
with more questions.
Yes, they do.
So obviously, the loss of her images, while it hurt her little heart, did not hurt her presentation.
Because I put a lot of time into
I
that.
know. I know it's hard
I put a
work.
lot of time into that. But, so here's a lesson for you. If you ever do public speaking, you know, even small group presentation, when stuff doesn't work out, Carol could probably fix it like that. Carol could like blink at it and
Yeah.
Not all the time.
not I. Just keep rolling. No one knows what your slides are supposed to look like. No one knows what you were supposed to say. Actually, it threw me off a little bit in my presentation, and I got a little mixed up, and I really don't think anyone knew. I had to backtrack and cover something in a previous slide that didn't show up later in my presentation, but I really don't think anyone noticed. So I think part of helping when these things happen, number one, is to be prepared by practicing. And we had a great presenter on our book marketing mega summit, Celeste Johnson, who was talking about giving presentations and how you prepare and to be ready for different things. And it's funny because I asked her in the Q&A, the Q&A that comes with the VIP pass, I asked her a specific question about how long she practices, how long and I won't give you her answer, but it helped me be prepared for this particular this session. So say all that to say, just be prepared, go with the flow. Most people will not even notice that there was a goof or a gap.
I think if your entire presentation had gone out, including the words, that you would have still been able to give your presentation.
I would have.
In a meaningful way.
I would have.
Yeah.
And only because I rehearsed.
Right.
I knew what was coming in each slide. I knew what was on each slide. I could have just had my laptop there to guide me, but I didn't really need that.
Mm-hmm.
So preparation is key in whatever you do, particularly if you are a public speaker, and certainly if you're an author. And I gotta say, so a couple of books while I was there, so that was awesome.
That means you knew your stuff.
That was exactly. People wanted more, so that was a good thing. So that was my recent experience.
Yeah, and Anita wisely remembers that it's bigger than the book, though, because not only did she sell her books there, she also used that as a chance to build her list. So she had she gave them a free opt-in gift if they joined her list. So she was wisely using it as more than just book sales.
Even though that slide didn't show up either. So they'll get goodies and we'll get a chance to communicate with them on a regular basis. But I'm excited about today's guest.
Not as excited as I am. You want to know why?
Why?
Because several of my clients have worked with this guest, and actually one of my clients is just beginning to work with this guest, and we've had wonderful results. So I'm going to introduce her. Today we have on the show Kimberly Martin. Kimberly Martin is the owner and founder of Jera Publishing. She has over 10 years of experience in the self-publishing world, and she has helped numerous authors successfully self-publish their books. When she isn't collecting antique typewriters, and I told Carol that makes me want to rob her house.
She did. She actually did say that.
Because I would love to have those. When Kimberly isn't collecting antique typewriters, riding her motorcycle, or spoiling her cat, she's helping indie authors realize their dream of publishing. Kimberly Martin, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we're so happy to have you. So, most of our audience is made up of entrepreneurs, coaches, and speakers, and business owners. And we are wondering, in your opinion, why should entrepreneurs publish a book? What's in it for them?
Well, it makes you an instant authority in your field. Think of an author. What's that base word is, authority. So by being an author, you're immediately saying, look, I know what I'm talking about. And people immediately respect you when you say author of. It opens doors for you. You get speaking engagements. It gives you a point of conversation and introduction. So it's like a book is today's business card. It really introduces you to your clientele, or who you want to be your clientele, and helps them learn more about you and showcases that you know what you're doing.
What's the best kind of book for entrepreneurs to write?
It should be related to your business, but you don't have to give everything away. Especially if you're doing coaching and consulting, you do want to give helpful information that is based in your field. But you don't have to give everything away. Think of it as like a really long blog where you're giving away tips and information, top 10 ways to do this. It shouldn't be very long, short and sweet. So just an introduction, but really just tips and tricks that are related to your business, or maybe a story about how you came into business and helpful tips for people that are in a similar situation. So think of it as like a long consulting session where you're telling people about who you are and what you do, but in a book form.
You mentioned that it shouldn't be too long, and this question came up.
I was going to say the same thing after Anita's talk.
Right, that is the question that people want to know. They think there's one answer. This is how long a book should be, period. What are your recommendations to nonfiction authors, business book authors, entrepreneurs, of how long their book should be? People are stuck on that. And we know there's not just one answer, but what are your recommendations?
I would recommend between 150 to 200 pages. You can do sometimes under the 150 if it's more of a, top 10 ways to do type of thing, tips and tricks. But if you're really getting into it, no more than 200 is a max.
And why is that? Why that number of pages?
This is a world of short attention spans and people want information quick, easily. If you give them a big, huge book, they're going to get intimidated and they're not going to want to pick it up. They want something that gets right to the point of what they're looking to find out about you and your business or help them. And if it can be done quickly, that's better. A long book on the shelf, they're going to see a book 400 pages, they're going to walk away. That's scary.
It's intimidating. Long books these days.
Yes, it can be very, and it can get a little boring and run on. So stick to the basics of what you know. And like I said, this is, hopefully your introduction to get them to hire you to do other things, maybe coaching or consulting. So it's a teaser. You're teasing them with the information you want them to hire you to tell them more about. So don't give it all away. Just little tidbits. So that's not a long book.
So Kimberly, I have this question. If you're making a short book, how short is too short?
Good question. Less than 100 pages is probably a little too short. Now, you can do things to make a short book appear a little bit larger, the way you format and style it in the white space and add some information to it to make it appear longer. But in print form, it shouldn't be much less than 100 pages.
Wow, that's a good point. Well, now you bring up something too that I'm always interested in, and that is layout and formatting. What are some tips you can share with authors on how Jera Publishing helps with formatting and layout? And appearance is really important. And I'm not talking about the cover right now. I'm talking about pages. What are some tips we need to know about making the interior awesome?
Well, the interior is important because it's your first, other than the cover, it's one of your first impressions of your book. They open it up, and if it looks very amateurish, they're going to think you're an amateur. So a lot of people, there's things about book layouts that, they've read hundreds of books, but they don't really know, they don't realize some of the little things that go into that, what fonts to use, where page numbers go, what should be in the headers, what spacing and margins are supposed to be there. So, we help with all of that. So we make sure that the book represents who you are, what type of book you're writing. So if it's a technical book versus a self-help book, the way it looks and presented is going to be a little different. And we're also going to make sure it meets all those, technical things that makes it more pleasing to the eye, choosing the right fonts and the spacing and things like that is very important. There are some rules when it comes to doing the book, like sans serif font should not be used for the main body of text. Blank pages should be completely blank with no little page numbers or headers on them. The font size is important. And you don't want to some people get overly decorative on some of their pages, and it kind of deters from what you're trying to say. So you have all these little graphics and icons and you think, oh, that makes it look so cool, but it's taken away from your message. So clean and simple is how I like them, but a little bit of flourish, but not too much.
So Kimberly, can you then kind of explain to listeners and viewers what the self-publishing process looks like? Because we get a lot of people who show up and they've finished a manuscript and they want to have the book in 10 days, right? They have no idea.
No. Even though you want to move quickly, I know people have written the book and, they want to get it to market tomorrow. You need to slow down. Because again, the reason you're writing this book is to become across as an authority, a thought leader in your industry. And if you rush that, it's going to deter away from the message you're trying to take. So you do want to, definitely get it edited by a professional. You don't want that first impression to come across with poor grammar.
Yay for editing.
Yes, editing. And professional editing doesn't mean it's by your mom or your next door neighbor. A professional editor.
I say that all the time.
And second is cover design. Cover design is probably the second most important thing.
I'm clapping.
And then comes the layout and design of the interior. Now you can cut some corners and costs by doing a less fancy interior because it's the message that's most important. As long as it's done right, it doesn't have to be a lot of money spent on the interior. But in order to self-publish, the steps, you need to set yourself up as a business. Self-publishing is a business. Being an author is a business. So you'll want to set up a business with a publishing company name. So you're going to want to either do like a simple doing business as, sole proprietorship, or an LLC. LLC.
Why can't I just publish as Anita Henderson?
You can, but there is still a little bit of stigma associated with self-publishing. So establishing a business name, it helps you down the road because it's going to say published by, and it's going to have a publishing company name. You come across as more professional. And it helps you separate the personal from the business as well. Now, if your business is, revolving around your name, it might not be so too bad, but it does help. So if you register that business name, you can purchase your ISBNs underneath that business name. You can do checking underneath that business name. You would file taxes underneath that business name, and it really helps to separate. Now, if you're going to do an LLC, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kimberly. I was going to ask if I already own a company, if I'm a consultant or something. I can publish under my existing.
Yes. If you have it, that's a good point. A lot of people that are doing businesses are going to already have that business set up. So then you would do it underneath that name. If you already have the business set up, you have a business name, you can go ahead and use that as a publishing company published under, and then that business's name. So, but you don't want to just use your own name as a published by, authored by this, published by this. I do suggest separating them and doing it under a business name.
That's a great point. I had no idea about that. So that's a great point. I wanted to go back to one thing that you said, and some people may not understand it, when you were saying about the serif versus the sans serif fonts on the inside for the body.
Yes.
What does that mean for those out there who are like, oh, I thought you could just Happy Man or the kitty font in there. That'll be fine with me.
Comic Sans.
Yeah.
Sans. A sans serif font is like Arial or Helvetica. A serif font has a little dash at the end of the lines, like Times New Roman. And it's been proven that a book that is done in sans serif, a printed book, is a lot more difficult to read than one that's done in serif font. There's been lots of studies on this. It's much easier for the eye to follow and to read. Now, the tricky part is that on screen, like on a monitor, the sans serif font is actually better. So people might be viewing their book on their monitors as they're formatting it and going, oh, I like the sans serif much better. It looks much better than the serif font, and they use it. But in print, it's not the same. So it's also considered in the book industry, someone sees a sans serif font and they immediately think amateur. So always use that serif font.
Who your target reader is. I wonder if some of the younger readers would prefer a sans serif body versus, some of our...
Maybe in children's books, like a young children's book, a big, bold sans serif font is sometimes appropriate for that. But for adult books, no.
So can you go back and tell us what the self-publishing process timeline looks like? If someone's done with their manuscript, how long should they expect to take to have a book?
2 weeks.
No. I would say at least a month. But if you're doing editing, add a couple months to that. So once to get through editing, allow a couple of months because there's always that back and forth and delays. But for getting it formatted in the cover design, the ebook, at least a month. Now, one thing people don't think about is they think, okay, that the designer is going to hand me back the full manuscript in PDF, and that's it. I'm done. I can send this to the printer. But you're always, I don't care how many times you've had this edited and you've read through it, you're always going to find something that you want to change when you get that draft back. And then that's going to take time for you to review it, time to let the designer know, hey, I need this changed, time to review a new draft. So you always want to pad that time. If the designer says, I'll get you that PDF back in 2 weeks, add 2 weeks to that for things that you're going to want to change.
Meaning, don't plan your book launch the day after you get your proof copy.
No, you always want to. Yes, you want to plan a book launch, but always give plenty of padding time from when the time editors and designers say it's going to be ready.
That's a good point. I think that's something that people don't really think about, especially when you're self-publishing. If you're not, especially if you're not working with someone who's experienced. I mean, right now, I think just about anybody can, quote unquote, self-publish a book. But to do it right, so that you make money off of it, so that you look like a professional that you are, you have to put some time, money, energy, and thought into it.
That is very true.
Interesting thing I find, and you also, Kimberly, probably, is as long as it takes people to write, like they procrastinate and it takes 2 years to finally get that draft done and ready for editing, and then suddenly they want everything done in 2 weeks. Like they've taken forever to write the book.
Exactly.
Now they want it produced in such a short
Overnight.
time. Yeah, overnight. In the blink.
I would say calm down, take a step back.
Yeah.
You just get it done right. Because if you rush this last step, you're going to regret it later. Either you're not going to have a book that you're happy with, or you're going to, we've had people that have done that. I got to get it out. I planned the book launch, just get it to me, get it out the door. And then for the next 6 months, they're coming back to us with changes they want to make, an error they found, a typo they found, or oops, I shouldn't have done that. And or they regret not building up their author platform before launch. They just rush it out and they're like, well, why is no one buying my book? Well, no one knows about your book.
Can you talk really about how you recommend authors go about building that platform before they launch?
Yeah, you want to start early. I recommend at least 6 months before you think that book's going to go out there, if not longer. You want to get a website, a blog, mailing list. Mailing lists are huge. So you got to get that mailing list up on your website and start building the buzz. Your social media accounts you need to get up there, and you need to start talking to the people that on those accounts and giving them little information that they'll find helpful. Have a mailing list where they're going to get some kind of free offer if they sign up. That way, if they come to you and they think, oh, that book sounds interesting, but it's not out yet, you've got to get that mailing list up there so that when your book does come out, you have a way to reach them. So, build that author platform as early as you can and start writing blogs, start connecting with other people too. Build your connections with other authors, with other people in your industry. Do guest posts on other blogs, approach other people and build those connections.
Well, Kimberly, we're going to take a quick break to acknowledge our sponsors, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about some of the services that you're publishing.
Okay.
So, we'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Creative Services International, digital marketing experts who work with business owners, coaches, and authors, as well as entrepreneurs, to expand their brand, get more clients, and make more money with eye-catching designs and engaging marketing campaigns. You can visit them at www.csicorporation.com. Get the Write Books That Sell Now free video training series. It's absolutely free, and you will learn a bunch of tips, tricks, and hacks from each of us to help you finally get your book done. In these free videos, we open the door to give you a taste of what you'll find in our high-value, information-packed online course. You'll get information on writing, publishing, and marketing your book, and it's all for free. To access the free video training series, just visit us at www.writebooksthatsellnow.com.
Okay, everyone, thanks. We're back with Kimberly of Jera Publishing. She's been giving us a wealth of knowledge about self-publishing a book. Now we want to get more into the services that she offers. So take it away, Kimberly.
So how do you help authors in that process of all the stuff that they need? When should they come to you, and what services do you offer?
Well, sometimes, as soon as people think, I want to write a book, especially in the business sense, I can help you brainstorm some ideas about what type of book you can write. Then we can provide services from editing, interior layout and design, cover design, ebooks, which are huge. And also what I do is I do a lot of hand-holding. I walk people through the process with coaching sessions and evaluating where you are in the process, who your target market is, and start building that author platform. So I do a lot of hand-holding and coaching throughout the entire process, from getting it written to building the author platform to building the book to getting it published, and then even follow up after that. So that's what I'm for. And then my team will help get that book built and get it looking really professional for you. So really, I do suggest if you're just getting started and you're not sure what to do, just call me up and schedule a free consult. If you go to our website, self-pub.net/schedule, you can schedule a consult session with me right there and give me a call. We'll talk about what you're doing, what book you're thinking about doing, where you're at in the process, where you need to go. Be glad to talk to you about that.
So, Kimberly, I recently met with a client who brought along his friend's recently self-published book. And he was very excited about the book, and he handed it to me, and I opened it up. There was no copyright page. And the text started on the left-hand side. and there was no ISBN number on the back, no ISBN number on the back, and no barcode on the back. And this man paid a company thousands of dollars.
Wow.
To ghostwrite and self-publish his book. And I wish I had met him before he did that. But that's what he did. He's not familiar with the world of self-publishing. He had no idea what he should be looking for. They were great salespeople, and they gave him essentially a pamphlet and got thousands of dollars from him. How can the average person who has no idea what self-publishing is really all about, what should they be looking for in a company they choose to work with?
You want to see who they've worked with before, find out which books they've done, go take a look. Are they on Amazon? See if you can talk to authors they've worked with, see if you can find their blogs or their social media accounts, reach out to them and see how they did. But most importantly, look at some books that they have published out there and take a look at them and then compare them to other books. But those references is also very important. Someone might know design. They might be a great graphic designer. But have they ever done a book cover? And not just what's important with the book cover, but the technical aspects of it as well. Printers have very specific things that they need to do. So find out if they've done books, not just are they a good graphic designer, can they do a book? How are they familiar with that? So just walking down to your local print shop is not how you self-publish a book.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Speaking of that, there's a lot of different aspects of independent publishing that authors could spend a lot of money on. Candace mentioned this gentleman who spent thousands of dollars on his book. What are the two most important things you think an author should invest in when it comes to their book publishing?
The editing is most important. You've got to have a good content out there. If your content isn't strong, then you're failing. And the second is the book cover. You got to have an attractive cover that looks professional and is going to, when people looking at it on Amazon.com, it's going to stand out. It's going to just, hey, and portray what type of book you're doing too. So editing and cover design are the two things I would spend the most money on and when you're self-publishing.
Are there any trends in covers these days, considering, most people shop for books online? Are there any trends that authors should be aware of when it comes to their cover?
Well, one thing you need to make sure of is, simplicity. You're starting to see a lot of books that have one main item of focus, a nice, interesting graphic, or sometimes they're just text only. So you don't even have to spend a lot of money on illustrations or anything like that. You just have one main image you're focusing on, and then make sure your title is very prominently displayed so it looks good in small print. So you don't want to have tiny little title up there and make it stand out.
Speaking of titles, are there any trends in titles? I'm knowing that subtitles are getting kind of long these days, which could be a good thing, and for various reasons. Any trends you've seen in titles?
Well, in nonfiction books, people are really starting to focus on the keywords that are in those subtitles because they want their book to be discovered online. So they're making sure they're researching their audience and the keywords and the metadata that people are using to find books like that or information like that, and write in a subtitle that has those keywords in it. But it gets a little tricky because you have to get those in there without it looking like you're just plugging a bunch of words in there.
Right.
You'll see a shorter main title and then kind of a catchy title and then a more informative subtitle that kind of gives more information using those keywords.
So what are some of the mistakes that you typically see authors making, Kimberly? What are some of the things that you just cringe when you pick up a book by yourself?
When I'm talking about book design, one of the things that make me cringe is, the sans serif font. And also they're doing things like, they have running headers on the chapter title pages, or, there's blank pages have running heads or page numbers on them. Those are the things that just make me like, ooh, no. Also, the like not justified. They're like a ragged, everything's ragged left and not justified. That's also makes me cringe. So I've done, like you say, you pick up a book. I hold author events here, and sometimes people have been published. They bring in their book and they're showing it off, and I pick it up. I'm like, ooh, schedule a consult with me.
They could tell you, come on.
So what if you have already published your book and you're listening to this or you're watching this and you're realizing that you have some of these problems in your book that you're completely unaware of, what can you do? What should you do at that?
Well, hopefully you have used print on demand and you don't have 2,000s of copies of these books sitting in your garage somewhere. And I've had that happen before. But if you're done print on demand, you can redo your book. You can have the interior redone, you can have the cover redone, and then you can upload the new files to the print on demand services. And then so the next time the books are printed, they're going to have all the new interior. If you do a new cover, you may have to get a new ISBN. So, but otherwise, yeah, you get it redone. It's worthwhile at some point to get that redone if it's that bad.
So at what point would they need to get a new ISBN?
A brand new cover that looks completely different than the old cover sometimes will require a new ISBN to be assigned to the book. Now, a lot of people don't follow that guideline, so you might be able to get away with it, but technically you should.
Kimberly, one last question before we let you get out of here. What do you see as the future of independent book publishing?
The future of self-publishing?
Yeah.
Well, ebooks are really taking off. So you're going to start seeing more and more with ebooks. I think they tried a while with getting more interactive ebooks. That seems to have fallen a little flat. So I think you're still going to see just the text being the focus in ebooks. A lot of people might even skip doing print, but that might not happen for a while. However, I think you're going to see more of the traditional publishing houses start to change the way they're doing business because self-publishing is growing. A lot of people, it used to be a stigma with self-publishing. Now they're embracing it. They're proudly proclaiming, I am a self-published author. And that's gaining respect instead of saying, oh, you're self-published. Now it's saying, good for you. You did a lot of work. You deserve the respect. So that perception of being self-published is definitely changing.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kimberly Martin with Jera Publishing, for being our guest on this episode of the Right Books That Sell Now podcast. We appreciate it. Tell everybody how they can reach you, what's your website, how they can get in touch with you for that consultation.
Yeah, you can find me at self-pub.net, or if you go to Jera Publishing, it'll just redirect you there. You can find us online on Facebook or on Twitter at Jera Pub is our handle. You can email us at mail@jerapublishing.com as well. And or you can call us at 770-642-6400, and I'll be glad to chat with you. If you just have a quick question, I'd rather spend 5-10 minutes talking with you to make sure you're making the right decision instead of seeing you make a mistake.
We would like that.
Yeah, definitely.
We appreciate you. Thanks again, Kimberly Martin.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Hey, well, look, you guys know we always do a shout out to an author on the Right Books That Sell Now podcast. And I'm going to shout out to, and for some reason I don't have the book with me.
Oh, no.
And guess what else? I forgot the name of the author.
Oh, no.
Shame. Now I know. This is like so bad. It's called, the name of the book, the title of the book is Recovering Charles. Recovering Charles. It's actually a book that my mom recommended to my husband. It's about a gentleman. He is a professional photographer, and this is post-Katrina. It's like right after Katrina happened. And he is tasked with searching for his father, who had moved to New Orleans, and has somehow become missing right at the tail end of Hurricane Katrina. And so my mother recommended that my husband read this book because he is from New Orleans. And she wondered if some of the references to the streets and the areas and stuff in the book were true. She's like, is that street real? Is that neighborhood real? And so she recommended that he read the book. And it turns out that I'm all over the book. And I'm all reading it. And
it's by Jason F. Wright.
There it is. Jason F. Wright. It's called Recovering Charles. And it's really interesting. He does a really good job of dialogue. He uses a lot of dialogue in this book. It's a novel. So those of you who enjoy novels and that are contemporary novels with current references and accurate references, you'll enjoy it. And of course, I've been to New Orleans. I can't tell you how many times I love the city. Swear I would not live there, but I do love it. My in-laws are there. It is true. I would live there. Okay, so that understands me. But it's infinite. I know, right? And it part out. No, I love to visit New Orleans. And this book is really interesting. It does cover some interesting aspects. have we have a story. My husband and I have our own little story about post-Katrina stuff. He happened to be in New Orleans when Katrina hit. And the anxiety of trying to help him find a place as he exited from that city while I was in Atlanta on the phone with all these hotels from New Orleans to Houston was crazy. Wow. So we have a connection to this story. And quite frankly, I'm probably more into the book than he is. So again, the book is Recovering Charles, and I think you will enjoy it. It is available on Amazon.com. And so that is my shout out for today's episode. Fantastic.
Awesome sauce. Thank you very much, Nita. Thanks to everyone. And we are so happy that you have joined us on our new video format. We're getting used to all this stuff, so, please excuse any little things that don't seem quite so polished as they did on our audio podcast. We had a lot of time to work on that. I know how new things are. But we totally appreciate you tuning in to us, to view us, to listen, to download. And we want to encourage you to go to our website at writebooks@sellnow.com. Please look at all the other podcasts that we have. And we want you to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. We're all over social media. And please, if you would do us this one favor, and that is to look us up on iTunes and Stitcher. And please leave us a great comment, because we love reading your comments. And if you have any questions for us or for Kimberly or just books in general, please send them to us, because we do read all of the email that we get, and we do answer it. So that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And everyone, keep writing. We're out.
Thanks for listening. Find out more about becoming an author and making the most of your book at writebooks.sellnow.com.